13 years after an unforgettable night together, a man and a woman reconnect and agree to foster a platonic relationship. However, their mutual attraction complicates their attempts at dating other people. In a Columbia University dorm room, Lainey pounds on a door and screams for Matthew to open up so they can make love like he promised. Her outburst causes the students to come out of their rooms, and then the resident assistant, Jordan, arrives and says unless someone signs her into the building as a guest, she has to leave. When Lainey refuses, Jordan threatens to call campus police. So Jake, a student who lives down the hall, pretends she's his guest to keep her out of trouble. In the room, Lainey says that she was supposed to make love for the first time with Matthew, a teacher's assistant in her pre-med biology class. However, Jake can't believe someone as beautiful as she is attracted to someone as bland and uninteresting as Matthew. She says she's in love with the teacher's assistant, so he explains that she deserves someone better. Later on the roof, Lainey asks Jake to tell her what lovemaking is like. He proceeds to make a descriptive analogy, but she realizes he's never done it either. When she teases him for his inexperience, he counters by saying that she can't even get the most boring guy in the dorm to sleep with her. Jake realizes he offended Lainey, so he apologizes, but he says they were having a romantic moment until he messed up. To make up for his mistake, he kisses her and they make love. 13 years later, Jake chases Hannah down the street and apologizes for cheating on her with her best friend Sarah. However, he reminds the woman that they were never exclusive because she insisted they remain casual despite sleeping with each other for 3 months. He thinks her issue with him sleeping with her best friend is fueled by societal insecurity that pits women against each other. When Hannah calms down, Jake says Sarah doesn't hold a candle to her and invites her back to his apartment. However, the woman pushes him into the street in front of an oncoming taxi cab. At the hospital, the injured man wears an arm sling while waiting for his turn in the emergency room. Meanwhile, Lainey musters up the courage to tell her boyfriend Sam about her infidelity. She says she slept with another man 16 times but wants to save their relationship. Unfortunately, he refuses to take her back and calls her rude names in the middle of the restaurant. The embarrassed woman rushes to the restroom, where she texts Matthew. When Lainey receives his response asking where she is, the relieved woman smiles and calms down. Days later, she attends a support group focused on addressing issues with intimacy. However, when she receives another text from Matthew, she leaves the meeting. Outside, Jake, who also attended the same support group meeting, spots Lainey, and they're both bemused seeing each other after 13 years. He teases her about never hearing from her again after the night they spent together. He adds that Matthew's an obstetrician now, but the woman pretends she didn't know. Jake assumes Lainey's a doctor as well, but she says she didn't pursue a medical career and now teaches kindergarten. Then, the man says he and a friend created a content delivery network and are selling it to a digital media provider. The next day, Jake and his friend Xander sign a contract with their new boss Paula. After the meeting, the man hits on Paula, but she emphasizes that she doesn't date employees. Meanwhile, Lainey waits for her turn at the obstetrician's clinic. In his office, Matthew says it's been a while since she pretended to be a patient so they could secretly meet, revealing that he was the man she cheated on Sam with. When he asks why she's there, Lainey says she can't see him anymore. To her surprise, the doctor quickly accepts her decision without a fuss. He says he proposed to his girlfriend Emma, who said yes, stunning Lainey with the news. Seconds later, the woman asks Matthew to delete his number on her phone because she can't do it. However, the man kisses her, and they make love on the table. Later, Lainey's friend Kara says it's best if she cuts ties completely with Matthew, especially now that he's engaged. When the woman mentions running into Jake, the friend suggests she ask him out and sleep with him. That night, the pair enjoyed drinks with Xander and his wife Naomi. The woman thinks it's sweet that they were each other's first lovemaking partner. Suddenly, Lainey excuses herself and leaves the bar. Jake chases her outside and realizes he completely misunderstood that tonight was supposed to be a date. He apologizes and says they can still salvage the evening. So they head to a dim sum restaurant where the man learns she's still hung up on Matthew after all these years. He asks why she continues to obsess over the same man, so Lainey admits she thought he'd eventually choose her. When he says she might have an obsession with intimacy, she explains that she only joined the support group following her therapist's suggestion. Then she asks why he was at the meeting, and he says his girlfriend threatened to break up with him if he didn't attend it. However, Hannah still broke up with him anyway. Lainey wonders why his girlfriend told him to go in the first place. So Jake admits several people in his life have said that he has commitment issues because he avoids long-term relationships. After the date, they say their goodbyes, but the man admits he wants to sleep with her. Lainey laughs and reminds him that they spent the entire evening talking about how they mishandled every relationship they've ever had. So they agree that they should remain friends and decide on mousetrap as a safe word in case one of them feels uncomfortable with romantic tension. In the next few weeks, Lainey studies for the medical college admission test, hoping to finally pursue becoming a doctor. Meanwhile, Jake continues sleeping with multiple women. The friends also spend time with each other by eating at their favorite restaurants and taking walks in the park. One day, Lainey sees Matthew while he's going on a jog. She tries to chase after the unsuspecting man but runs out of breath. Later, Jake accompanies the woman as she goes shopping, and she shares how horrible she felt when she saw how normal and unbothered Matthew looked. While she's in the dressing room, the man receives multiple texts from one of his casual flings, Renee, who keeps pestering him because he doesn't respond to her messages. Then, Lainey steps out to show him the revealing lingerie she has on, taking him by surprise. Months later, the woman receives her medical college admission test results and sees she passed. While shopping, Jake shares a problem he has with the woman he's currently dating, Thea. He says he avoided sleeping with her because he wants to emulate Lainey, who's chosen to abstain from intimacy. After several dates, Thea asks Jake why they hadn't made love. Unable to control his urges, the man finally gave in and they slept together. Even though the woman assured him it's okay that she didn't finish, Jake says it's never happened to him. Lainey explains that it's a completely normal experience for women. Later in her apartment, Jake teaches the woman how to perform an intimate act on herself after learning that she hasn't done the deed for a year. In the crude tutorial, they both feel the tension building, so Jake excuses himself to leave. That night, Lainey tells Kara that because of her platonic friendship, she hasn't thought about Matthew, and Jake's been going on serious dates. However, the friend argues that their relationship takes up emotional space, which a real option could have occupied. Kara adds that the woman replaced Matthew's absence with another unavailable man. Suddenly, Kara's girlfriend George joins them and asks about Lainey's fake boyfriend. The woman insists she and Jake aren't dating, but Kara argues women and men can't be friends and says she should stop lying to herself. The next day, Xander asks Jake if he wants to bring Lainey to his son's birthday party. When he says he and Lainey are just friends, the exasperated man explains that he wants him to attend the party with a woman so the other moms won't flirt with him. Later, while the pair take a walk in Central Park, Lainey's phone rings with a call from Matthew. When Jake takes her phone away to keep her from answering it, the woman has a panic attack. So he calms her down, says what she feels is fear, and assures her she'll be okay. The next evening, the friends enjoy ice cream while watching a movie. He unconsciously calls her baby, so she points out that he's done it twice in the last few days. Seconds later, Lainey asks if he wants to talk about how they aren't a couple but act like one. Jake says he's wanted to have this conversation for a while. He reveals that he's never slept with anyone he wasn't willing to lose, except one time. Then she realizes he's referring to the night they made love on the dormitory roof. Jake admits he's sad she's probably going to Michigan for medical school but knows he can't ask her to stay because he doesn't have the right to stop her from following her dreams. That's why he's spending as much time with her as possible. Later on the ferry, the man asks the woman if she wants to go to the birthday party with him. To enjoy the occasion, the pair ingested hallucinogens before attending the party. In the backyard, Lainey gathers the unruly kids and says she's teaching them how to dance. When the song starts, she removes her top, revealing a bikini underneath. In the middle of the dance, the amused kids laugh at the intoxicated woman, so Jake jumps in and joins Lainey. Meanwhile, Chris asks Xander and Naomi who Lainey is, and they say she's Jake's friend. Later, the pair hang out by the pool, and then Chris approaches the woman and says his son enjoyed dancing with her. Before leaving, the smitten man hands Lainey his calling card in case she's interested in going out with him. Jake makes snide remarks beside her, and she teases that he's jealous. During the date, the nervous Chris admits he hasn't gone out after his 8-year marriage ended, so Lainey says he's doing great. Later, they return to his house and make love. The next day, Jake expresses his refusal to listen to any details regarding the woman's dating life. She reminds him that he always tells her about his exploits, but he insists it's different the other way around. In Paula's office, Jake jokingly says he's resigning from his job so he can date the boss. Charmed by his approach, the woman eventually relents and says they can go out for drinks. While attending a party as Chris' date, Lainey runs into Matthew. Then the doctor introduces his now wife Emma, who's several months pregnant. To avoid the awkward interaction, Lainey excuses herself to the restroom where she throws up. Meanwhile, Jake goes on a date with Paula, who asks him what experience from his past shaped him into becoming a philanderer. So the man reveals he once thought that making love was special, but after the first time, he realized doing the deed wasn't a big deal. Then his phone rings and Paula says it's okay if he takes it, but Jake ignores the call. Concurrently, Lainey hears her phone call to her friend go straight to voicemail. By the sink, Emma asks her if she's one of Matthew's patients, so she says they went to Columbia together. The wife shares that meeting her husband's patients bothers her, knowing that he's seen their private parts. The distraught woman tells Chris she isn't feeling well and is heading out. Matthew overhears the conversation, so he offers that his driver takes her home, but she declines. Meanwhile, Paula takes Jake back to her place where they make love on the floor. During the deed, the man accidentally utters Lainey's name. Paula wonders who Lainey is, and he says it's a long story. The woman asks if he wants to tell her about it, and he says yes. Later, Jake finds the sad woman waiting outside his apartment building. In his room, the man removes her shoes and takes off her coat. Lainey crawls into bed and Jake lays down beside her. She turns to face him and he takes her in his arms. She says that Matthew didn't choose her, so Jake tells her that she never asked the doctor to make a choice. Lainey asks how his date went and if Paula was nice to him, and the man says yes. She looks him in his eyes and wonders if they're in love with each other. When he nods, she asks what he'll do about their complicated situation, but he says there's nothing either of them can do. Then, they both profess their love for each other. Lainey shuts her eyes and Jake inches closer, desperate to kiss her. However, he changes his mind and faces away. Before the woman leaves for Michigan, the man helps her load the moving truck. He teases that she can still change her mind and ditch medical school to run away with him. Lainey jokes that she can't because she stopped sleeping with men in relationships, revealing that Jake and Paula are a couple. While saying their goodbyes, she kisses his hand and thanks him for teaching her how to love someone. 2 months later, Jake cheers on Paula's son as he plays soccer. After the game, Xander commends his friend for changing his outlook on dating. Then he asks how Lainey's doing, but Jake says he hasn't talked to her in a while. Later at a restaurant, the man surprises Paula with a European trip, much to the woman's delight. Suddenly, he spots Matthew, so he stands up and walks over to the doctor. When the physician acknowledges him, Jake punches the man's face, alarming the pregnant Emma. The two men continue the fight on the sidewalk outside, and Jake says he's retaliating for his girl. Then, police officers arrive to break up the scuffle. All of a sudden, Emma's water breaks, but a cop drags her obstetrician husband away even when he insists he's her doctor. In the police car, Paula asks Jake who he met when he said "my girl," and she realizes he's still hung up on Lainey. At the station, the man calls Lainey and says he's been arrested because he punched Matthew. He admits that he thinks about her all the time and that he misses her. Then, he says he wants her to come home because he'd rather fail with her than win with anyone else. After hearing his words, the woman says she loves him, and the elated man yells that he feels the same way. A cop tries to take the phone away, but Jake puts the call on speaker, and Matthew overhears the couple's declarations of love from the other room. Weeks later, the doctor's lawyer informs Jake that his client can't come to the meeting for the lawsuit settlement for the third time. Later, Lainey drops by the obstetrician's clinic under a false name so he won't know it's her. The woman threatens to tell Emma about the affair if he refuses to drop the case against Jake. Outside, the man asks if the doctor agrees to drop the charges, and the woman says yes. Lainey places a veil on her head, and Jake hands her a bouquet, revealing that they're on their way to their wedding at the courthouse. She says she can't believe they saved themselves from marriage after being each other's first intimate partner 13 years ago. When they realize they still have a few hours before the ceremony, the impatient and giddy couple heads back to the hotel to finally make love. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.